Another week, another tragic incident claimed by the Islamic State, this time a first in Germany. A 17-year-old Afghan refugee wielding an axe and a knife attacked passengers on a train in Bavaria on Monday night, wounding 4 people before he was shot dead by police. Joachim Herrmann, the Bavarian Interior Minister, told state television it was too early to speculate about the motives of the attacker, but confirmed the 17-year-old was believed to have been living in a home for unaccompanied minors. German authorities said they had found a hand-painted Islamic State flag among the belongings of the asylum seeker who seriously injured 4 members of a family of tourists from Hong Kong in his rampage. Today in our studios, we welcome Mr. Tarek Osman. Tarek Osman is the author of Islamism, What It Means for the Middle East and the World, published earlier this year, and the international bestseller Egypt on the Brink, which appeared weeks before the country's 2011 uprising, both by Yale University Press. Welcome to our studios, Tarek.
Thank you for having me, Youmna.
Thank you for being here. This attack in Germany comes just days after Tunisian-born Mohamed Lahouel Bouhlel plowed a truck into a busy street in the French city of Nice, killing 84 people. The attack was also claimed by ISIS, and it was the 3rd such incident in France in the past 18 months. So why these lone wolf attacks in Europe?
Because we do, I think, have a very major problem of substantial number of European Muslims who, for historical reasons, feel alienated, do not feel that they are part of the societies they grew up in. We have major, I think, identity issues and major socioeconomic problems as well. And you lump all of these things together, I think you do have a very perilous mix. I'm not particularly sure the idea of ISIS claiming that they are its foot soldiers, how credible that is. I think to a large extent, I would highlight the word you mentioned, lone wolves, much more than I would highlight the ISIS dimension, in Europe at least.
Right, but whether it's lone wolf, there are people that seem to be turning to extremism very quickly. And ISIS is claiming it. Now, whether or not that's credible, it's still being accepted in the media as a threat, and it's being seen as, all right, this was an ISIS attack. Now, lone wolf because they acted alone. But you were mentioning the importance of European Muslims, which, you know, France being the country with the biggest Muslim population, and as we were discussing earlier, have had problems with integrating these people for a long, long time now.
Very true. Keep in mind that the story of European Muslims is not one story. I think you cannot generalize and say European Muslims per se.
Right.
You do have probably a story of European Muslims in Francophone Europe, primarily France and Belgium. You have a different story, I think, in Germany, and certainly a very different one in the UK, for example. But to a large extent, you can more or less generalize with different levels that the integration of quite a substantial percentage of European Muslims, not all, but a substantial percentage, have been very weak, especially over the past 30 years. And keep in mind 2 things, that now we're seeing a 2nd or 3rd generation European Muslims who did not come as guest workers or immigrants who more or less did not feel that these are their homes. You do have a 2nd, sometimes 3rd generation who grew up feeling these are their homes.
So we're also seeing a shift in politics. I think Brexit is a thing by itself, but what we've seen there is probably what we can probably project in the future of countries like France and maybe Belgium is a rise of a more conservative kind of ways of running the country. And I think in France specifically, because this was the 3rd such incident in the past 18 months and there are presidential elections next year, where people keep talking and critics and analysts keep saying this, there will be a rise of the right. Right?
Right.
Right?
I would probably qualify the word of conservative. I would probably
Right.
say in some cases it's much more than conservative, probably far right. Second point, I think France, of course, is a crucially important one because, as you said, it has proportionally the largest number of Muslims in Europe. but also because France, because of its history, because of its unique positioning in Europe, what happens in France has major resonances elsewhere. But I think you do have to take a bit of an integrated picture regarding Europe. Italy has a referendum at the end of 2016, not necessarily on the European Union, regarding some constitutional changes, but in effect it is a referendum on the performance of the government, if you would like. You do have a presidential election in France in spring 2016, parliamentary elections in Germany in the second half of spring 2017, and parliamentary election in Germany in the second half of 2017. In other words, and that follows the Brexit, across Europe you have a moment in which the population, and here I think you have to underline the middle class and the lower middle class, who are voicing not necessarily their opinion regarding one specific issue, whether the membership of the European Union or the performance of one specific government. Rather, they are voicing their feelings regarding many issues. And it's coming at a time when, again, Europe is going through major socioeconomic problems. There's very high levels of inequality. There's very high levels of youth unemployment. And I think there's a sense of lack of confidence, or at least diluted confidence about the future for many Europeans. And that, again, adds to the perilous mix.